Well, kiddies, you can throw away your history books now, for your armchair historian is about to tell you the real story of John Smith and Polkahonis. The whole story, including Polkahonis, is laid in a teepee. A teepee, as all you good children probably know, is a long, erect pole with a piece of skin drooped over its top. This, of course, was before the rabbis invaded the city. The scene opens as Polkahonis' father, Chief Contraceptive, the original Indian rubber man, is talking to his daughter. And he says, "Pokey, I want you to marry John Smith." And she says, "I'm sorry, Father, I'll do it for a buck or nothing." A buck, of course, being a slang word for Indian brave. At this point in the story, however, we hear the voice of her lover, John Smith, singing from the hilltops one of the favorite Indian love lyrics of the day, which translated into English reads, "'Tis better to have flunked your wasserman than never to have loved at all." This is a very tense scene, by the way, for all of the habitués of the Indian village and the sons of habitués are crowded about the teepee to see what will happen. For, you see, according to Indian custom, if Polkahonis wants John Smith to come down to her, all she has to do is raise the flap of her teepee, and he'll shove in his tomahawk. On the other hand, if she wishes to repulse his advances, then she must close her flap, which forces him back up into the hills to beat on his tom-tom. However, John, being in the position that he is, feels that he can't stick it out any longer and decides that he'll go down to her teepee. Now, you must remember that John is in a very precarious position, for having lived with the men of his expeditionary force for so long, when he finally meets one of the opposite sex, he just doesn't know which way to turn. At any rate, he finally decides to come down to the teepee, and as soon as he enters it, the father, in an attempt to save his daughter from a fate worse than death, rushes up to John Smith and says, "John, you cannot marry my daughter. She is a prostitute." But John, being very worldly wise, stands up, smiles, and says, "Why, that's all right. I'll go to her church one week and she can go to mine the next." But then, after a lot of concentration and consideration and consultation and mastering the situation, why, John finally decides that, after all, his experience is too broad to fit into Polkahonis' narrow circle. And if he ever did once get into it, he probably couldn't work things out anyway. So with this in mind, he bends over Polkahonis and turns to the father to deliver his final speech as a group of choir boys come in from the background singing Bach's third movement from X-Lax. And with this lovely refrain ringing in the background, John says to the chief, "I'll kiss her just once on her rosy red lips and leave her behind for you." And that, kiddies, is the true story of John Smith and Polkahonis.